While hiking up the mountain, these gossipy moms were sneakily competing to see whose kid was more impressive. The lady in the red jacket proudly shared that her daughter graduated from a top US university and was so thoughtful, she even sent her mom the best quality athletic wear. Not to be outdone, the lady in blue bragged that her son, a brilliant architect, had met with the president, won tons of prestigious awards, and was basically a celebrity in the design world. Red Jacket wasn't going to lose. She threw in that her daughter casually chats with the second richest man in the world at work, because she's that much of a rising star in her company. Blue Jacket fired back, her son used to be a national swimmer, mind you. To top it off, both of them were so obsessed with their kids that even their poor friends could recite every detail of these stories by heart. After that, the lady in the red jacket handed out her daughter's wedding invitations to her friends and proudly bragged that her son-in-law was a world-famous lawyer. However, she didn't know that her daughter, Suk Ryu, had called off the wedding and was on a flight back to Korea. Suk Ryu was so anxious about facing her mother's anger that when a kind flight attendant woke her up, she screamed in fear. The first thing Suk Ryu did after landing was call her best friend Mom to pick her up, hoping to gain some courage. The two went home together, but Mom had no idea Suk Ryu returned for this reason. She happily took Suk Ryu out for some tteokbokki to relive old memories, until Suk Ryu's younger brother showed up to buy some too. Suk Ryu panicked and pulled Mom down to hide. That's when Mom started suspecting Suk Ryu might have messed something up big in the US. Suk Ryu rushed to explain she just wanted to surprise her family this time. Besides, ringing the doorbell and walking in normally felt too boring. She figured if her friend wanted to play along, they might as well go all in. Just then, the fire chief called with an emergency, so Mom quickly made an excuse and ran off, leaving Suk Ryu behind without hesitation. Suk Ryu had no choice but to head home alone, only to discover that the old public bathhouse at the end of the alley had been turned into a fancy new building. She remembered that when they were little, Sung Hyo had also been dragged by his mom to bathe with her in the women's section, a truly embarrassing scene. Suk Ryu curiously wandered around the building and, when she turned around, saw Sung Hyo standing right in front of her. That's when she realized the building was the architectural firm Sung Hyo had just established. Sung Hyo is a talented architect who frequently wins awards. His good looks also make him very popular among his female colleagues. Sung Hyo was working on designing a memorial park and, to better understand its emotional significance, consulted a funeral director with 20 years of experience. She had recently buried her mother and shared that instead of sorrow, she felt peace in personally sending her off. Her perspective, that a memorial park doesn't need to feel solemn but can also be a comforting space for remembering loved ones, inspired Sung Hyo deeply. He rushed back to his office to capture the idea, only to find Suk. As soon as Suk Ryu and Sung Hyo saw each other, they immediately started bickering. Before Suk Ryu could explain anything, her mom and a group of friends showed up. Panicking, she dove into a cardboard box nearby and begged Sung Hyo to pretend he hadn't seen her. In the chaos, she forgot her suitcase in plain sight. When her mom noticed the tag and grew suspicious, Suk Ryu signaled from inside the box. Sung Hyo quickly claimed the suitcase was his and tried to distract them. When they questioned the box, he insisted it was just trash he planned to throw away later and hurriedly ushered them out. When Suk Ryu didn't hear anything outside, she tried to climb out of the box, only to have Sung Hyo hold it shut. He asked why she was hiding from her mom, assuming she must have done something serious in the US. Suk Ryu, not wanting to admit she had cancelled her engagement, tore through the box to escape, only to be tricked by Sung Hyo, who made her think her mom was still nearby. Realizing she'd been tricked, Suk Ryu didn't argue, she simply asked Sung Hyo to help her again. Then she dashed into his company building, pretending she just needed to use the restroom. Afterward, she wandered around the office, curiously poking at things. The two quickly slipped back into their old dynamic, bickering without letting up. At one point, Suk Ryu even raised her hand to strike him, but Sung Hyo dodged just in time. Suk Ryu playfully wandered into Sung Hyo's office and laughed hysterically when she learned he had designed the ceiling structure to mimic an ancient royal tomb. She jokingly called him a pervert. But the fun ended abruptly when she tripped over a power cord and fell. Luckily, Sung Hyo reacted quickly and stopped the falling bookshelf just in time, saving Suk Ryu from getting hurt. But a decorative item from the shelf hit his back instead. Suk Ryu looked at him with concern, her eyes landing on a scar, one she hadn't seen before. She suddenly remembered it was her, back when they were kids, who had accidentally caused that injury. In fact, Sung Hyo had long been used to having scars from all the little battles she unintentionally dragged him into. This time, Sung Hyo was certain she had gotten herself into big trouble again. He warned Suk Ryu to confess to her mom as soon as possible, otherwise, knowing her mom's personality, the longer she waited, the worse the punishment would be. Though he teased her with sarcasm, his words carried genuine concern. But deep down, Sung Hyo was worried about her safety, so he followed her home. Seeing a delivery helmet by the door, Suk Ryu suddenly had an idea. She opened her suitcase, layered on thick clothes, and braced herself for the beating she expected from her mom. Sung Hyo could only sigh. He had clearly underestimated just how far his quirky friend was willing to go. At the doorstep, Suk Ryu quickly pulled Sung Hyo back, insisting he face her mom with her. Alarmed, he asked what she had done. He needed to know if he should help or run. She reluctantly confessed she had called off the engagement. Just as the words left her mouth, her mother's voice rang out from behind, shocked and demanding to know what she had just said. Suk Ryu had to explain herself again, which shocked her father so much he fainted on the spot. When he came to, he said he thought he'd dreamt of his daughter, only to realize it was real. Her mother asked once more, and Suk Ryu firmly repeated that she had called off the wedding. Her mother thought she'd lost her mind, but Suk Ryu insisted she was perfectly sane. Furious, her mom lunged at her, but Suk Ryu quickly hid behind Sung Hyo for protection. Sung Hyo calmly advised her mom to stay composed and talk things through. Trying to hold back her anger, the mother asked if it was the groom's side who had called off the wedding. When Suk Ryu admitted it was her decision, her mother jumped to conclusions, assuming she'd cheated. Seeing her daughter remain silent only deepened the misunderstanding.
In the end, Mom snapped. She grabbed a bunch of green onions and started whacking Suk Ryu. But since Suk Ryu was hiding behind Sung Hyo, he took all the hits right in the face with no chance to dodge. Still mouthing off from behind, Suk Ryu only made Mom angrier. Sung Hyo's mom rushed in to stop her, clearly worried for her poor son. Suk Ryu's dad also stepped in, trying to get to the bottom of things. But when he heard Suk Ryu say she'd quit her job too, he fainted on the spot. Mom lunged again, calling her daughter crazy. Suk Ryu panicked and grabbed Sung Hyo's hand, dragging him to run like when they were kids. Once they found a quiet spot, Suk Ryu huffed. "You knew she'd stop chasing eventually. Why'd we run this far?" She slumped onto a bench. "Get me some water." Sung Hyo shrugged. "Swallow your spit." Unbothered, she used him as a human shield while stripping off her thick coat. The bickering picked right back up. He teased her about lying that she'd cheated, and she smirked. "Hey, I'm a catch, okay?" He stared at her, still joking around at a time like this. Then gently asked, "Why'd you suddenly cancel the wedding and quit such a great job?" Suk Ryu sighed. "I just feel burnt out. I studied in Korea, got shipped to the US, adapted, found a job, now a wedding. I've been running non-stop. I just want to reset and find myself again." Sung Hyo admired her honesty, about to say something comforting when his phone rang. It was her brother. Mom wanted her home, promised no more hitting. But Suk Ryu wasn't buying it. "I saw her mood swings with my own eyes." So Sung Hyo offered to go with her. "Come on, your mom likes me more anyway." Back home they found Mom lying on the sofa, sobbing. Suk Ryu rushed to comfort her, only for Mom to whip around with a stick in hand. Sensing danger, Suk Ryu tried to bolt, but Sung Hyo blocked the door, pushed her forward and calmly said, "Do what you want, Auntie," before locking the door from outside. Listening to her screams, he was suddenly taken back to childhood, when kids mocked him for not speaking Korean and called him stupid. That time, Suk Ryu had stepped up and yelled, "Whoever bullies my little brother is dead meat." Sung Hyo smiled. Now that Suk Ryu was back, the house felt noisy and alive again. Meanwhile, Mom had no clue her best friend's family was in such chaos. She'd just been called out on duty after a report came in. A drunk man had collapsed in Hanyu Park with a bleeding head injury. When Mum arrived, the man looked pale and weak. She tried to help, but he shoved her away, yelled at her to back off, then smashed his liquor bottle and threatened her. A passing journalist tried to help, boasting about his red belt in Taekwondo, but tripped and cut his hand on broken glass before he even got close. With perfect timing, Mum delivered a swift kick that knocked the bottle away. The man immediately calmed down. She took him to the hospital and even gave him candy and a note, gently telling him to stop drinking. He carefully tucked both into his pocket, just as the reporter Jong Ho took notice. He found himself impressed by this calm, striking woman. Back home, after scolding Suk-ryu, her mom finally asked why she'd called off the wedding. She didn't buy the cheating story. Suk-ryu might act crazy sometimes, but she knew her daughter had limits. Not wanting to explain, Suk-ryu just said she was tired of life. When asked what she planned to do, she replied, "Honestly, I just want to sleep, eat every Korean dish I've missed, and become the happiest unemployed woman alive." The next morning, Mom found her sleeping on the floor and stormed out, slamming the door. Suk-ryu, groggy and starving, came down for food, only to have Mom snatch the rice bowl from her and say she didn't deserve to eat. Just then, Sung-hyo and Mum arrived. Suk-ryu gave Sung-hyo a death glare but melted in front of Mum. Knowing exactly how strict her friend's mom was, Mum gently checked on Suk-ryu's health. Sung-hyo greeted Auntie sweetly and even brought her favorite pumpkin porridge. Touched, Auntie invited them to stay for breakfast and told them not to hold back if they wanted more. Meanwhile, Suk-ryu whined that her mom had no heart, starving her daughter but feeding guests. Looking pitiful, she held her bowl out to Mum, asking for rice. She shot a dramatic glare at Sung-hyo, then mumbled they needed to talk later. When he ignored her, she turned her teasing toward her little brother, scolding his unhealthy eating habits. Suk-ryu scolded her younger brother for wanting to be a fitness trainer without even studying nutrition. As expected, it turned into a shouting match, and a bit of pushing. Their mom finally snapped, stormed into the basement, and started banging on the family drum. Instant silence. Their dad leaned over and whispered, "That drum only comes out when her rage goes nuclear." Everyone nodded. Auntie didn't mess around. She was scary good at both lectures and beatdowns. Mum knew this wasn't just a family squabble. She cornered Suk-ryu and asked, "You've always been the golden child. What's really going on?" But when Suk-ryu dodged the question, Mum grabbed her, trying to force it out, until Sung-hyo reminded her she was late for work. Reluctantly, Mum left with a warning, "I'll deal with you tonight." As Suk-ryu flopped back down to sleep, Sung-hyo rolled his eyes. "Keep this up, and you'll end up in lazy hell. To me, that is heaven," she muttered. She then waved him over like she had something important to say, only to catch him in a headlock. "Traitor," she shouted. "You sold me out to my mom. You know what happens to traitors. Execution." Luckily, Mom walked in and saved him, kicking her daughter in the leg for good measure, then told Suk-ryu to deliver red bean rice cakes to Sung-hyo's office. Apparently, she'd ordered them for him to hand out before his company's opening. Grumbling, Suk-ryu went with him. At the office, his co-workers, clearly smitten, perked up when they heard the two were childhood friends and asked about their past. Suk-ryu lit up. She recalled how she'd cared for tiny, helpless Sung-hyo, fed him healthy food, made him friends, practically raised him. Sung-hyo's version. A nightmare. He remembered being a quiet kid who just wanted peace, dragged around by a noisy, chaotic girl who forced him to eat vegetables she didn't even like, and even barged into the bathroom once while he was peeing. They bickered again. The poor co-worker gave up once she realized these two were childhood sweethearts, clearly a lost cause. That evening, Suk-ryu suddenly craved scallion pancakes. She got to work on the balcony, and the smell drew out Mum and Sung-hyo. While Mum went to grab some soju, Suk-ryu took the chance to ask Sung-hyo if he was struggling financially. She'd overheard co-workers complaining about delayed payments. But he wasn't worried about himself. "When will you stop bottling everything up?" he asked gently. "Your mom loves you the most. She deserves to know the truth." His words caught her off guard. Then she narrowed her eyes and asked, "Wait. Did she put you up to this?" Before he could respond, she wrapped her arm around his neck. "Spy. You're working for my mom, aren't you?" Since Suk-ryu still wouldn't talk, her mom finally picked up the phone and tried to call the groom-to-be herself, but no one answered.
Suk-ryu caught her mom hiding her phone and, suspicious, grabbed it, only to see her ex's number. Without a word, she deleted the contact and told her mom to stop trying to reach him. Later, lost in thought, She boarded a bus and drifted back to her time in the US struggling to fit in. She'd been labeled an arrogant workaholic and was eventually fired. At rock bottom, she went looking for comfort from her boyfriend, only to catch him kissing someone else. The bus driver snapped her out of it at the last stop. Wandering home, she spotted a pomegranate plant at a flower shop and impulsively bought it, shoving it into Sung Hyo's hands as a gift for his office opening. Seeing the plant shared her name, Sung Hyo joked about tossing it. But Suk Ryu warned him it symbolized wealth, each fallen leaf a business loss. He immediately clutched it protectively. On the day of the opening, her mom, fearing gossip about the called-off wedding, told Suk Ryu not to come. She agreed, reluctantly. But just as expected, the moment the Annies arrived, the passive-aggressive jabs began. "Weren't we promised a wedding in Hawaii?" they quipped. Later, they whispered cruelly in the bathroom, mocking her mom's past and calling her a faded shadow of others. Suk Ryu's mom overheard everything. She said nothing, but the pain showed. Trying to help, Suk Ryu came by with a brooch, only for the aunties to witness it. Her mom, forcing a smile, lied. She left a big US company for a better offer. She's just resting before heading back. Watching it unfold, Sung Hyo noticed how out of place Suk Ryu looked. His chest ached for her. Back home, she found her room turned into a storage space. Her mom made it clear she didn't want her back. Throwing her suitcase down, she yelled, "You betrayed me. All I ever wanted was for you to succeed and make up for my failures. But now look at you, sleeping, laughing like an idiot." "I'm ashamed." Fighting tears, Suk Ryu asked, "Did you ever stop to think why I'm like this? Why I laugh that way?" "I'm not happy, Mom. I'm just tired. I don't want to be your trophy anymore." She ran out of the house. Sung Hyo followed, but by the time he reached her, she'd already put on that familiar mask of indifference, hiding the pain beneath. Sung Hyo quietly stayed beside Suk Ryu, knowing what she was going through. As rain started to fall, the two huddled under a tiny umbrella. Out of nowhere, Suk Ryu burst into laughter, genuine and tearful, remembering a silly memory from their childhood. Sung Hyo pulled the umbrella closer. "Don't fake a smile. Either cry or laugh. Just pick one." Her tears poured like the rain. Once she calmed down, they sat and talked. Knowing he'd overheard her fight with her mom, she asked him to pretend he hadn't. Then she saw a shooting star and clasped her hands to make a wish like a kid. Sung Hyo rolled his eyes but did the same, secretly hoping his business would survive. Suk Ryu sensed something was wrong. He admitted they hadn't landed any new clients and hadn't been paid for recent work. Without hesitation, she grabbed his hand, determined to help collect the money, if he just gave her a name. When she revealed her plan involved throwing a tantrum on the floor, he muttered she was out of her mind. Still, while eating noodles, he reassured her, "Don't worry. I won't let the business crash. I'm not ready to see your face on a wanted poster." Meanwhile, her mom brought the suitcase back upstairs and began cleaning out the room. While tidying, she dropped the brooch Suk Ryu had given her, and tears welled in her eyes as she pinned it to her chest. In high school, Suk Ryu had worked part-time jobs with Sung Hyo just to buy that brooch for her mom and a set of glow-in-the-dark stars for herself. Her mom had proudly worn the brooch, while Suk Ryu stuck stars on her bedroom ceiling. Later, her mom called Sung Hyo, asking him to help redecorate the room. She didn't want her daughter living in a cramped, gloomy space. Sung Hyo quietly bought wallpaper and furniture and redesigned the whole room. When Suk Ryu came home and saw it, she ran downstairs in disbelief. Hearing her mom had asked Sung Hyo, she finally smiled. Something between them had healed. That night, she ate joyfully with her parents. Her mom warned, "If you two fight again, you're both out." Later, lying in bed, Suk Ryu noticed the stars on her ceiling glowing again. Overjoyed, she called Sung Hyo to thank him. He casually reminded her, "Don't forget to keep your curtains closed." Confused, she opened them, only to see him waving from the apartment directly across the street. With a grin, he teased, "Didn't want to wake up and see your terrifying bare face." He had moved in right across from her. As their eyes met, they both flashed back to when they were kids. She'd nearly fallen while sticking stars on the ceiling, and he had caught her. And just like then, both of their hearts skipped a beat. Back when Sung Hyo entered a major swimming competition, his parents couldn't make it. They were busy with work. He was crushed. But then, in the crowd, he spotted Suk Ryu cheering her lungs out just for him. Encouraged, he gave it everything he had and won. Years later, at 3 a.m., Sung Hyo was woken by Suk Ryu's scream. Annoyed, he opened the window to scold her, only to get teased. Little Sung Hyo can't sleep? Need a lullaby? He shot back that the curly-haired girl in her drama was a ghost, then shut his window and went back to bed. The next morning brought great news. His company had landed a massive project, a luxury senior resort. It would solve their financial problems, but what really excited him was a different task: redesigning the gym at his old high school. While he worked, Suk Ryu began her happy unemployed phase, making a schedule filled with gaming, lounging, and dramas. She invited Sung Hyo to a comic cafe. He turned her down, so she called Mum instead. At the cafe, Mum got hooked on a horror manga. Suk Ryu bragged she'd been eyeing adult comics too, only to realize she'd misunderstood Mum. Suddenly, Sung Hyo showed up, awkwardly insisting he came just to read. Later, the three left together. Suk Ryu suggested gaming, but both declined, busy with work. She trudged home alone. Day 1 of unemployment? Total flop. The next day, she helped at her parents' rice cake shop and ran into her old teacher, who asked her to deliver snacks to school. There, she bumped into Sung Hyo again. He was prepping for the gym design contest. The teacher, thrilled to see her former students, asked them to share career advice with current students. Since Sung Hyo was busy, she turned to Suk Ryu, assuming she still worked at a big U.S. firm. Standing at the podium, Suk Ryu hesitated when asked if her childhood dream was to be a corporate star. The question stunned her. Meanwhile, Sung Hyo arrived at the gym and touched the pool surface, lost in memories of his carefree school days. That evening, he picked up Suk Ryu from work. She was unusually quiet. Without a word, he brought her to the mountain behind their school, the spot where, 10 years earlier, they buried a time capsule with letters to their future selves. They searched for it together but came up empty. Frustrated, Suk Ryu walked off, and Sung Hyo chased after her, neither realizing the box had just begun to peek out from the dirt behind them. A new day began. Sung Hyo and his colleagues met with a client for the senior resort project. The client requested that he take inspiration from a world-famous architect. Offended, Sung Hyo walked out. He refused to copy anyone else's ideas. His colleagues tried to reason with him. If he stayed stubborn, the company wouldn't profit. But Sung Hyo valued his integrity as an architect more. This only angered his teammate, who couldn't believe Sung Hyo was letting pride ruin a lucrative deal. They argued bitterly. On the way home, Sung Hyo saw Suk Ryu talking with a recruiter at a cafe. Curious, he lingered. When the recruiter asked about her job in the U.S., she deflected, clearly avoiding the topic. Afterward, Sung Hyo stopped her, and they talked at a public water fountain. While stretching, she mentioned the recruiter had offered her job similar to her old one in both content and pay. But Sung Hyo wasn't concerned about the salary. He just wanted to know if she wanted the job. He hoped she'd choose something she loved, not just what was practical. He missed the old Suk Ryu, the one who lit up talking about her dreams. That spark was gone now. To Suk Ryu, he sounded naive. Only people with stable lives had the privilege to chase dreams. She'd forgotten Sung Hyo had also known hardship. Years ago, he was a rising star in swimming. Suk Ryu had once given him a hand-embroidered towel before a major meet. But a car accident injured his leg, forcing him to give up the sport. She could still picture him sobbing under his blanket. The memory made her regret her harsh words, but she didn't know how to apologize. The next day, at work, a female colleague mentioned the argument between their bosses. She said Sung Hyo was too proud, probably because he'd grown up comfortable, never needing to worry about money. Her words reminded him of Suk Ryu. Something clicked. He approached her and agreed to take on the resort project. Meanwhile, Suk-ryu returned to her old high school. Seeing the students' bright faces brought back the question from the last visit. What was your childhood dream? Back then, her dream was simple: get into college, make her mom proud, earn recognition. But now she realized she lived for others' approval, never truly asking what she wanted. She stayed until evening. After everyone left, she began digging up the old time capsule, only to be caught by her former teacher. Suk-ryu was invited to her teacher's office for tea, where she finally admitted she hadn't just quit, she'd been fired from her job in the US. Her teacher gently reassured her, saying she'd always excelled in school, and that's what made them worry. What if one day you failed? Maybe no one had ever taught her how to deal with failure, but like all kids, she'd figure it out. Then, the teacher told her to head to the pool. Sung-hyo was waiting. He had just dug up their old-time capsule. When he saw her, he cheekily opened her letter. Embarrassed, she chased him, and he dove into the pool to escape, his first time back in the water since giving up swimming. Seizing the moment, Suk-ryu apologized for her thoughtless words. Sung-hyo laughed, recalling how after his accident, he'd sulk in bed while she kept barging in and nagging him. He'd lock her out. She'd find ways back in. Once, she even climbed up to the window. He'd startled her, pulled her in, and they ended up yelling at each other. But secretly, she was glad he finally raised his voice. She even threatened to break his door with a tiny axe if he locked her out again. That stubborn, fiery Suk-ryu, that was the girl he remembered. Suddenly, angry, Suk-ryu, who couldn't swim, jumped into the pool. Sung-hyo panicked and swam over, only for her to grab his head and dunk him. After some splashing chaos, she calmed down, floating as she opened up. Everyone else seemed to be moving forward, except her. Sung-hyo understood. After quitting swimming, he couldn't even look at water. But now, here he was again. Suk-ryu asked, if you could swim again, would you still be an architect? He nodded. Of course. Then he asked, if you could go back, before the layoff and the breakup, would you do it all over? Without hesitation, she said, no. Just then, she lost balance and sank. Alarmed, he pulled her up. His mind flashed to the letter he'd written to himself 10 years ago. I've probably confessed to Suk-ryu by now, right? Right then, she sneezed loudly, ruining the moment. The two drowned rats climbed out of the pool, flushed and flustered. Suk-ryu excitedly opened the time capsule, only to find Mom's letter missing. Brushing it off, she and Sung-hyo read their own. When Sung-hyo finished his face flushed red. Curious, Suk-ryu tried to peek, but he hid the letter and rushed home, where he reread the childhood confession he'd once written to her. It had to be a silly crush, he told himself. How could he have liked someone as headstrong as her? Meanwhile, Suk-ryu felt let down. She had hoped her letter would hold answers about her future, but it didn't. She still felt lost. The next day, she accidentally bumped into Sung-hyo and proudly showed off a career guidebook, claiming she'd finally figure out her calling. She followed him to his office. Coincidentally, while there, she overheard that her former company, Gaper Group, was building a new Seoul HQ and wanted bids from both Sung-hyo's firm and a top competitor, Wasan. Sung-hyo didn't seem thrilled. His co-workers, thinking he was in disbelief, showed in the email, but they couldn't read English, so Suk-ryu stepped in to translate. That's when it slipped out that the sender was her former colleague. The team, excited, invited her to join the project as liaison. Sung-hyo tried to object, but to his surprise, she agreed, wanting to help, despite her discomfort with facing her old company. Later, the two ran into Mum and a reporter, Jan-ho, at a convenience store. Jan-ho recognized Mum. She'd saved him from a drunk guy recently, but still wouldn't give up the last bottle of flavored water. The four chatted. Jan-ho had once interviewed Sung-hyo and seemed to recognize Suk-ryu too, though he couldn't place her. When asked where he was from, he dodged the question and made a quick exit, leaving the others puzzled. At work, Suk-ryu proved invaluable, coordinating with Gaper and impressing the team. Just as they began asking why she left such a big company, an urgent customer issue sent Sung Hyo and a colleague running. Left alone, Suk Ryu overheard Gaper's team talking on an unmuted mic. They clearly preferred Wazin, calling Sung Hyo's firm inexperienced and admitting they'd already made their choice. Outraged, she stormed into the meeting room to stop Sung Hyo from moving forward. She didn't want him working with people who dismissed his company behind closed doors. But despite hearing it all, Sung Hyo remained firm in his decision. On the day of the meeting, she arrived on time. Among Gaper's staff was Krit, an old colleague who instantly unsettled her. Sung Hyo noticed. Years ago, during a failed project, Suk Ryu had pushed to try again. Krit supported her, but she did most of the work. Afterward, he called her a genie, say the word, and she'd do it. She liked praise, and people used that to pile work on her. Behind her back, they mocked her for being needy. Krit had even spread news of her suspension years earlier. She overheard him gossiping again, but said nothing. Later, Krit cornered her, pretended to care, then joked he missed having his genie around, before reaching to pat her head. That's when Sung Hyo appeared and grabbed Krit's collar. Krit mocked him as a nobody trying to win Gaper's business. Suk Ryu stepped in before things escalated. Krit left, threatening legal action. Feeling guilty, Suk Ryu said she'd back out of the project. Krit smugly told her she needed to learn to say please. Furious, she punched and kicked him, warning she'd expose all his misconduct if he dared target Sung Hyo's firm. She stormed out. Seeing her in heels, Sung Hyo quietly followed and offered her a pair of sneakers, his quiet way of showing support. To let off steam, they visited a wishlock wall. Sung Hyo wrote Krit's name on a lock and cursed him. May he go bald and grow a pig belly. Cursing your enemy with your best friend? That hit the spot. Just as they clicked it shut, they got a call. Their firm had landed another Gaper project. And Krit? He'd been fired. One coworker had recorded him threatening Sung Hyo. That audio got sent straight to Gaper's VP, who, as it turns out, regularly chatted with a colleague online over shared hobbies. Krit's rude behavior was the last straw. Panicked, he even started calling people Hyung to beg for mercy. Overjoyed, Suk Ryu threw her arms around Sung Hyo. Sung Hyo remembered how Suk Ryu once skipped a mock exam just to watch him compete. His parents hadn't come, but she had, cheering loudly. After winning, he hung the gold medal around her neck. From that moment, he knew he'd always liked her. But afraid of ruining their friendship, he never said a word. That's why, years ago, he wrote in his letter to the future. One day, he'd confess. Jan Ho, who'd gone to school with them, had snapped a photo of that very moment. That's why Suk Ryu had looked so familiar to him. Later, when Sung Hyo visited her in the US, he brought her favorite comic books. She hugged him tightly. That night, over drinks, she leaned in and he thought she might kiss him, but instead, she fell asleep on his shoulder. She'd been thrilled to see him again. Before he could answer her question about what he wanted to do in America, she dragged him back to her dorm to drink. The next morning, he woke first, gently tucked her in and whispered, "You idiot, do you even know why I came?" Just then, she woke to a text from her boyfriend. As she got ready to introduce them, Sung Hyo's heart sank. He realized she already had someone. From that day on, he buried his feelings. But when she hugged him now, celebrating their company's win and Krit's firing, that old spark returned. To mark the occasion, Suk Ryu cooked a meal. Sung Hyo teased her lack of skill but couldn't stop smiling. While she focused in the kitchen, he kept stealing glances. To his surprise, the food was great. She looked at him, eyes full of hope, clearly waiting for praise. For a moment, he was completely spellbound. Then Mom barged in, ruining the moment, right on cue. Sung Hyo rushed out, using wine as an excuse. Meanwhile, Mom and Suk Ryu chatted at the table. Mom grumbled that her mom was pressuring her to go on blind dates. She just wanted to marry her off. She admired Suk Ryu's courage, though regretted never seeing her in a wedding dress. Coincidentally, Suk Ryu still had her wedding photos and shared them. When Mom asked if she was over her ex, Suk-ryu quietly admitted, "I still love him." Just then, Sung-hyo returned for his wallet and spotted the wedding photos. Jealousy sparked. The next day, his behavior changed completely. When someone suggested Suk-ryu keep working on the Gaper project, he flatly refused. At lunch, when a co-worker mentioned her love for romantic time travel dramas, he snapped, "People should look forward, not cling to the past." Despite this, Suk-ryu tried convincing him to let her help, but he coldly turned her down. In the middle of their argument, Sung-hyo's ex suddenly showed up and hugged him from behind. She had once cheated on him to chase another man, but now, working with a big furniture brand, she wanted to partner with his firm. He remained distant. Watching from the sidelines, Suk-ryu and a co-worker whispered like they were in a palace drama. Suk-ryu recalled seeing them kissing in a car back in college. The ex, picking up on their closeness, looped her arm through Sung-hyo's and invited his whole office to her studio that weekend, clearly marking her territory. That night, Suk-ryu's dad showed up. He and Sung-hyo drank together until drunk, then her dad dragged him home for more. The next morning, Suk-ryu mistook the man sleeping in her house for her brother and jumped on him to wake him, only to find it was Sung-hyo. Startled, he fell off the bed and sprained his ankle. Feeling guilty, Suk-ryu became his driver. When they arrived at the ex's studio, she rushed out to help him inside. Seeing the beautiful courtyard and bustling activity, Suk-ryu got excited. It was workshop day, and they were short-handed. She eagerly volunteered. Sung-hyo, limping, got roped in too. After a while, Suk-ryu slipped away to use the bathroom, but on the way, she noticed his ex guiding his hands as he worked. Watching Sung-hyo focus so gently, Suk-ryu felt a sharp pang. She quietly stepped back, then bumped into a chair with a loud clatter. Suk-ryu smiled and said she was just looking for the restroom, then followed his ex out. Her sudden appearance had clearly flustered Sung-hyo. He lost all focus. When he stood up, he bumped into her. Suk-ryu teased, "You two look good together." Thinking of rekindling things. Annoyed, Sung-hyo snapped, "Don't give me advice about my life," then walked off. He thought back to the day before, when he'd forgotten his wallet. Returning to the house, he overheard Mum ask Suk-ryu if she was over him. Suk-ryu had said, "I still love him." That, plus the wedding photos on her phone, hit him hard. It seemed she still had feelings for her ex. Later, when his ex mentioned transferring a flower cart, Suk-ryu volunteered to help. But she hit a rock, the cart tipped, pots shattered, and she fell. Worried, Sung-hyo rushed over and scolded her in front of his ex. Embarrassed, Suk-ryu insisted on staying to clean up. His ex helped her up and offered clean clothes. Suk-ryu, still fuming from being yelled at, returned to help clean once changed. Thunder rumbled. It was going to rain. Suk-ryu joked, "Rainy days call for noodles." After eating, she lost rock, paper, scissors, and had to wash dishes. His ex offered to help. While drying, Suk-ryu noticed scars on the woman's arms, proof of her passion for pottery. The ex spoke warmly about her work, and Suk-ryu found herself admiring that clarity. She still didn't know what she wanted to do. Later, the ex joined Sung-hyo. She recalled how their energy never matched. Her fiery nature clashed with his calm. She'd left, but now seeing him react so strongly to Suk-ryu stirred jealousy. It was the first time she'd seen him so emotional. She regretted not telling the truth. The cart was already cracked. But she'd stayed silent out of envy. Meanwhile, Sung-hyo quietly washed the clay off Suk-ryu's clothes and hung them out to dry. Suk-ryu smiled, no longer upset with Sung-hyo. Lately, she'd become fascinated by soy sauce. When she heard one of the courtyard jars held a 100-year-old batch, she decided to open them one by one to find it. Sung-hyo couldn't sleep and joined her. Suk-ryu teased him, calling him a fairy godmother doing her laundry. As they chatted, she finally found it, the dark soy sauce, reflecting the moon. In that moment, she had a revelation. She wanted to make delicious food. That night, her dream became clear, simple, yet meaningful. Watching her glow with excitement, Sung Hyo recalled what his ex once said. He always smiled when looking at Suk Ryu. Now he understood. He'd loved her for a long time. Back home, Suk Ryu flipped through her childhood diary. Sung Hyo had been there for every milestone. Losing a tooth, learning to ride a bike, her first heartbreak. He thought he knew everything about her, but never guessed her dream was cooking. That day, her mom cooked a feast and asked her to bring it to Sung Hyo. While he was showering, Suk Ryu peeked at the time capsule letter. Shocked to learn he'd liked her since childhood, she was still processing it when he stepped out, flustered. He claimed it had just been a joke, but she asked, "Did you ever really like me?" Still deep in thought, she wandered to her father's snack shop. The warm memories of cooking with him made her smile. She asked if she could become a chef like him. But he said no, he didn't want her working behind a hot stove like he had. Still, she was determined. She rewatched her old cooking videos from the US, remembering how it had calmed her during tough times. Now, with clarity, she signed up for cooking classes. On the way home, she ran into Sung Hyo and his ex. The ex invited her for tea, but before she could reply, Sung Hyo cut in coldly, saying they had work. Furious, Suk Ryu exposed him. He'd once confessed his feelings, and now he was pretending otherwise. His ex said nothing, but glanced at the pomegranate tree, realizing he'd used her to avoid Suk Ryu. Still, she offered herself up if he needed to use her to figure things out, so be it. She even invited Suk Ryu to dinner, hinting she had something important to say. Before she could say more, Sung Hyo quickly stepped in to stop her. That evening, after work, Sung Hyo ran into Jan Ho and reluctantly followed him home for a drink. Jan Ho turned out to be a single dad. He rushed home to take care of his daughter. What was supposed to be a wine night turned into milk tea, and over drinks, Jan Ho opened up. He'd liked a girl for years, thought he'd moved on, but seeing her again made his heart race. Unsure how to deal with it, he avoided her. Jan Ho urged him to confess, but Sung Hyo hesitated. What if it ruined everything? He'd already missed his chance. What he didn't know was that Jan Ho's neighbor, had overheard it all. She already knew Sung Hyo had liked Suk Ryu since high school. She'd even once snuck a peek at one of his letters. She sighed, still the same clueless guy. The next day, the three ran into each other. Suk Ryu excitedly shared that she had her first Korean cooking class and wanted Sung Hyo to try what she made. He brushed her off, citing meetings, but later quietly searched online to see what class she was taking. That night, after dinner with old coworkers, Sung Hyo saw Jan Ho helping a drunk woman home. It triggered painful memories. His mother had once left him for another man. Fearing Suk Ryu might face something similar, he stopped Jan Ho and asked what was going on. Jan Ho admitted the truth, but asked him to keep it quiet until he was ready to tell his family. Meanwhile, Suk Ryu's mom had noticed her husband acting suspicious. Late nights, strange excuses. She finally found ATM receipts in his jacket and confronted him. Furious, she asked why he was spending money when she was pinching every penny. Cornered, her husband confessed. 2 food bloggers had found a hair in their food. As he tried to fix it, he spilled hot soup, burning one of them and damaging an expensive watch. They demanded full compensation. With the restaurant struggling, he took on taxi work to pay it off. Ashamed, he kept it from his wife, knowing she already looked down on him. Eventually, the burden was too much, he left home. Suk Ryu chased after him, suggesting calling the police, but he refused. A report would shut down their restaurant. He blamed himself for everything, from never buying her nice clothes to now dragging them into debt. Tearing up, Suk Ryu said she didn't even deserve to be his daughter, unemployed and helpless. But her father looked at her and said, "I'm proud to be your dad." And in that moment, she believed it too. She no longer wanted him to carry that guilt. Suk Ryu began searching for proof her father was being blackmailed. She visited the laundromat near their snack shop to check the security footage, only to learn Sung Hyo had already taken it. She called him immediately. At that moment, Sung Hyo was meeting the 2 bloggers. Posing as the snack shop owner's son, he offered compensation. But before handing over the money, he asked to see the damaged watch. Inspecting it, He commented that it was supposedly a luxury timepiece, one he coincidentally owned as a gift from a sponsor. Familiar with watches, Sung Hyo pointed out that genuine ones had serial numbers starting with 245D, but theirs began with 215D, a knockoff. Then, he showed surveillance footage from the laundromat. It clearly captured the bloggers outside just before noon, slipping strands of hair into a takeout container. Minutes later, they entered the shop, claimed to find the hair, and intentionally spilled soup on the watch as Suk Ryu's father came over, an obvious scam. Sung Hyo emphasized that the watch had stopped at 11:45 a.m. before they'd entered the shop, proving it had already been broken. Just then, Jan Ho showed up to cover the story. Sensing trouble, the bloggers ran. Jan Ho chased one, who smugly looked back, only to slam into a pole and pass out. Meanwhile, Sung Hyo chased the other, but was stopped by a red light. The blogger thought he was in the clear, until Suk Ryu appeared and blocked his way. In panic, he shoved her. Overworked and exhausted, she fell and suffered a nosebleed. Sung Hyo rushed to her, tore part of his shirt to stop the bleeding. Just then, her younger brother arrived and tackled the scammer. Later, to thank Sung Hyo, Suk Ryu gave him a dish she'd made in class, his favorite. But instead of softening, he turned cold. He confessed his feelings but said it was clear she didn't feel the same. He begged her to stop showing up in his life. He was going crazy. Stunned, Suk Ryu took off a shoe and threw it at him, demanding he repeat what he'd said. Back in college, the three of them had once played Truth or Dare. Mom had asked if he liked someone. He hadn't answered, an unspoken yes. Curious, Suk Ryu had pressed him, but he stayed silent. Mom, though, had always known. After all these years, Suk Ryu believed she knew everything about Sung Hyo, except one thing, who his first love was. Now, hearing him say she was driving him mad, she chased after him. When she caught up, he crouched, picked up her shoe, and helped her put it back on. Just as he was about to explain, someone called her name from behind. It was her ex-boyfriend. The moment he saw her, he poured out the feelings he had long buried. Immediately, Sung Hyo stepped in front of her, blocking her ex with a cold stare. Sung Hyo pulled Suk Ryu away, but her ex chased after them and grabbed her arm. In the scuffle, Suk Ryu's dad showed up, furious at the man who had hurt his daughter. Her mom quickly stepped in and dragged the ex inside. She served him a big meal, then asked why they broke up. He admitted Suk Ryu never betrayed him and apologized for his own mistakes. Hearing that, her mom snapped, grabbing a broom to chase him out. Her husband and daughter had to stop her from going too far. Suk Ryu's dad hugged his wife, then ushered the ex outside. He told Suk Ryu he still had feelings, but she said what they had wasn't love, just familiarity. She walked away. Outside, Sung Hyo had been waiting. He ran into Mom, and the two went to a convenience store. He told her what happened. Mom admitted she'd seen the time capsule and knew his feelings. She encouraged him to stop hiding and go after Suk Ryu. That night, Suk Ryu showed up at Mom's place and asked to stay over. Mom asked about the ex, and Suk Ryu explained that she no longer had feelings for him, just memories. Mom, relieved, went to sleep. But Suk Ryu couldn't sleep. She debated calling Sung Hyo, not knowing he was staring at her number 2. In the end, neither called. The next day, her mom got a text from the ex asking to meet again. Thinking they still had a chance, she dressed Suk Ryu up and sent her out. Just as she stepped outside, Sung Hyo rode up on his bike and told her to hop on or she'd be late for cooking class. She got on, and he teased her for dressing too femininely. She playfully hit him, then hugged his waist for balance. Curious, he asked what her ex had said. The thought of him begging her back made Sung Hyo angry. If she'd agreed, he'd be humiliated. Irritated, Suk Ryu told him to stop the bike. Sung Hyo hit the brakes, and Suk Ryu's face slammed into his back, leaving a streak of foundation. Annoyed, she got off and walked the rest of the way to class. There, she took out her anger on a lump of dough, pretending it was Sung Hyo. After class, her ex was still waiting outside her house. When she made it clear she wouldn't take him back, he asked for one last meal together. Suk Ryu, unable to refuse, agreed, suspecting her mom was behind this coincidence. She told him again. They were over for good. Afterward, Suk Ryu went for a walk alone and ran into Sung Hyo, who warned her not to wander at night. She ignored him and kept walking. In a dark alley, she sensed someone behind her. Panicking, she ran right into a dead end. When she turned, it was Sung Hyo. Relieved, she scolded him for not calling out. He blamed her for not looking back. The two argued, and Sung Hyo realized this was their biggest issue. Every time he tried to show he cared, it ended in a fight. He wanted to explain about her ex, but Suk Ryu stopped him. She wasn't ready to deal with anything more. Maybe later. Sung Hyo understood. He asked one thing. Would she see her ex again? She said no. That was enough for him. He told her to head home. He'd follow at a distance to keep her safe. Even if she didn't turn around, she'd know he was there. Thanks to him, she got home safely. But the next day, fate threw them together again. At lunch, Sung Hyo met his ex for work. Coincidentally, they ran into Suk Ryu and her ex at the same restaurant. The server seated them at nearby tables. Embarrassed, Sung Hyo's ex wanted to switch seats, but he refused. Both Sung Hyo and Suk Ryu ended up quietly eavesdropping. Seeing her lunchbox, Suk Ryu's ex praised her cooking and invited her to study in the US. He asked to try her food. Calling over a server, he said the food was made by someone important to him and wanted to eat it there. The server allowed it. He took a bite and raved about how good it was. Sung Hyo was so angry he cut into his steak with unnecessary force. Seeing his reaction, his ex quickly changed the subject, saying someone had seen them together and asked what their relationship was. She bluntly said Sung Hyo was her dream guy. But Sung Hyo told her to stop lying. He hated liars and people who broke promises. Like someone who swore they wouldn't meet a certain person again, but went back on their word. Hearing that, Suk Ryu choked on her drink. Her ex hurried to check on her, fussing over her worriedly. Embarrassed, she excused herself to the restroom. On her way back, she bumped into Sung Hyo, who was about to leave. The two, fueled by jealousy, immediately clashed. Suk Ryu accused him of using work as an excuse to dine with his ex at a fancy restaurant. Sung Hyo fired back, mocking her for going out with her ex. Later, Suk Ryu told her ex, again, that she hoped this would be the last time they ever met. Meanwhile, Sung Hyo got a call from his old high school teacher, asking him to come by the gym. His gym design had just won a major architecture award. When the teacher congratulated him, she asked if he'd told Suk Ryu yet. Apparently, she'd called days ago to check on the results. Sung Hyo hadn't realized how much Suk Ryu cared. She had secretly been checking in on his progress, calling to ask if his design had won. His heart swelled. He remembered what Hanyu said, "Don't love someone in silence. Even I can't save you if you do." And Janho's advice, "Be brave, like a swimmer pushing through that last 200 meters." Fueled by courage, Sung Hyo called Suk Ryu and rushed to find her. He'd had so many chances before, after high school, when she started college, when she told him she was moving to the US, but he let fear hold him back. Not this time. When he finally stood in front of her, he blurted out, "I'm going crazy because of you. I'm losing it. And it's all because I like you." Suk Ryu froze. Startled, she dropped a pot lid and burned her hand. Sung Hyo quickly grabbed her hand and ran it under cool water. Only then did he realize how intimate the moment was, his face flushed with embarrassment. She pulled her hand back and brushed it off, saying it was part of being a chef. But Sung Hyo still looked worried. He'd always been worried about her. Worried she'd get hurt, skip meals, upset someone, or run into bad people. He hoped only good people would stay by her side. Still stunned by his confession, Suk Ryu didn't respond right away. Before she could say anything, Sung Hyo stopped her. He understood she had just ended a relationship and might be confused, especially with her ex showing up again. So he told her to take her time, to think it over and only answer him when she was ready. Sung Hyo had no idea Suk Ryu had quietly liked him for years. As a child, she'd admired this warm, thoughtful older brother figure, but she was too young to realize it was a crush. Over time, those feelings faded. Until now, when he confessed, all those old emotions came rushing back, just as vivid as before. That night, neither of them could sleep. Sung Hyo paced in his room, unsure how to face her. He peeked across the way and saw her light still on. Suk Ryu tried meditating, even chopping vegetables to calm down, but nothing helped. She glanced towards Sung Hyo's window, but they kept missing each other. Both lay awake all night. The next morning, Suk Ryu hid her tired eyes and spotted the tie he'd used to stop her nosebleed. She dressed up, sprayed perfume, and went to return it. Sung Hyo teased, "Would have been better if you hadn't yanked it off. I was going to be buried with it." Flustered, Suk Ryu blurted, "Why buried? You're living to 100. Then she stammered, trying to explain, making him laugh. Trying to change the subject, she asked if she could answer his confession someday. But Sung Hyo didn't want to wait forever. So they went to the supermarket to set a deadline, using an expiration date. He carefully picked a milk carton with the shortest shelf life. Watching him, Suk Ryu's heart skipped. Embarrassed, she ran off. Later, he sent her a photo of the milk. Seeing the date, she gasped. Meanwhile, her mom got a text from Suk Ryu's ex, asking to meet. He apologized and said he still loved her and wanted to take her back to the US. Her dad found out and was furious, accusing her mom of ignoring Suk Ryu's feelings just to fulfill her own dreams. She argued back. She didn't want her daughter to live poor and unhappy like she had. The words hit hard. He walked away in silence. The next day, Suk Ryu's brother came asking for money to chase his influencer dreams. She scolded him for being a freeloader. He snapped back, saying she was just like him, both a burden. Then he left. She blamed their mom for spoiling him. Even though his heart condition had long healed, she still treated him like a fragile child. Their mom challenged, "Have a kid of your own someday. See if you can be cold when they're sick." But Suk Ryu didn't agree. Being sick wasn't a free pass forever. She walked out upset. Then she saw a good morning text from Sung Hyo and finally smiled. Just then, on her way to class, her ex appeared again, waiting for her. He handed her a cup of jasmine tea, just like the one he gave her years ago at a cafe in the US when they first met. Back then, she'd borrowed his phone charger, and noticing she drank too much coffee, he'd offered her jasmine tea, saying it was gentler on the stomach. Now, with the same tea in hand, he quietly hoped for a fresh start. But after giving it to her, he simply walked away. Meanwhile, Sung Hyo met with his ex for work. After wrapping up, he told her he'd jumped into the kiln, a metaphor she quickly understood. He'd confessed to Suk Ryu. She half-joked, wishing he'd burst like one of her old pottery pieces. But Sung Hyo, already hurting, said he didn't need her to add to it. Before leaving, she told him, "If you come out in pieces, call me. I'll take you out for a drink." That evening, Suk Ryu came home and found Sung Hyo in her living room.
Surprised, she asked why.
He said her younger brother had called him. She turned to her mom and complained, "He's not just asking for money anymore, he's roping in Sung Hyo too." Her mom didn't respond. Instead, she pulled a cooking textbook from Suk Ryu's bag. The secret was out: Suk Ryu was learning to cook. She confessed she wanted to work in food. Her dad was furious. All her degrees and 10 years of corporate work, wasted, he said. He told her she didn't have the drive to succeed in such a tough field. Then her brother walked in, and things exploded. Why? She asked. Were they so strict with her, but indulgent with her brother, who had no job and no direction? She had always tried her best. Why couldn't they support her too? Unable to bear it, she left the house. Sung Hyo followed her and brought her to a quiet park. She asked suddenly, "Did you bring your ex here too?" He laughed, teasing her. "You seem to know a lot about my past. Not ideal for a guy chasing after you." Watching the blossoms flutter like popcorn in the wind, Suk Ryu began to calm down. She felt embarrassed. Sung Hyo had seen all her awkward moments and probably knew too much. Sensing her gloom, he comforted her. Everyone makes mistakes. Even parents. You argue, you regret it. But if you only live for their approval, you betray yourself. It felt like he truly understood her. Now, her only concern was, where would she keep practicing her cooking? Since she couldn't use her dad's snack shop, Sung-hyo told Suk-ryu to come to his office after hours to practice cooking. The plan lifted her mood. Before she left, he reminded her, 9 days left to give me an answer. The next day, Suk-ryu came to the office with her ex, who wanted advice on an architectural project. The two men, clearly tense, couldn't help but compete, especially when the conversation turned to Suk-ryu. Her ex insisted they weren't truly over and still had a shot. But Sung-hyo only trusted what Suk-ryu said herself. He admitted that his trust in her wasn't just friendly. Her ex refused to back off and stuck around. While Suk-ryu cooked, Sung-hyo handed her some popcorn he'd brought. Just as she was about to eat it, her ex snatched it away, saying it was unhealthy. Ignoring him, she ate it anyway, and Sung-hyo grinned, feeling victorious. Dinner had barely begun when Suk-ryu suddenly clutched her stomach and collapsed. Sung-hyo tried to take her to the hospital, but she chose her ex instead. At the hospital, she revealed she had once battled stage 2 stomach cancer and had 70% of her stomach removed. Back at the office, Sung-hyo was stunned. Why had she chosen someone else? Panicked, he searched hospitals and eventually found her. Luckily, she was okay and discharged. Then came the next standoff. Who would take her home? Suk-ryu chose Sung-hyo. On the way home, Sung-hyo, surprisingly gallant, opened the car door for her. Suk-ryu, used to being treated like his assistant, was caught off guard. He wondered aloud if her ex used to treat her this way. She didn't answer, watching him drive off, her thoughts a mess. At home, seeing her mom's light on reminded her of when she first found out about her illness. She had wanted to tell her mom, but hearing her worried voice made her break down. She decided to wait until she got better. But now, she still wasn't fully healed. Meanwhile, Sung-hyo was fuming. He confessed to Mom that he was jealous and frustrated. Though he played it cool, he was dying to know what had really happened between Suk-ryu and her ex. What he didn't realize, Suk-ryu just didn't want him to see her at her weakest. The next morning, Sung-hyo was waiting outside Suk-ryu's house. He took her out for a bowl of nutritious porridge, tasty and easy on the stomach. Suk-ryu ate quickly, only to end up with a stomachache. She laughed it off, saying she was too full and needed the restroom, then rushed off. In pain, she slumped down inside the restroom. Before she'd left, Sung-hyo had quietly handed her a big bag of stomach meds, reminding her to take them properly. Watching him walk away, she grumbled, "Idiot." After her cooking class, Suk-ryu ran into her ex waiting outside. He handed her a brochure from a top culinary school in the US and asked her to go back with him, pick up where they left off, finally have the wedding they never had. Alongside it, he gave her the engagement ring she'd once returned. As she slipped it on, her decision was already made. That night, she met with Sung-hyo. Before he could ask why she had chosen her ex the other day, she blurted out that he had proposed again, and she was seriously considering it. Memories of their happier times kept flooding back. Sung-hyo asked, "Even after I told you how I feel, you still want to go back to him?" Suk-ryu coldly replied that to her. He was just the boy who used to cry a lot, her childhood friend, nothing more. Any feelings he thought she returned were just his misunderstanding. His heart sank. Even if she didn't choose him, he didn't want his love dismissed like that. Suk-ryu, caught in the moment, didn't know what to say. As if that wasn't enough, work was draining too. Lost in thought, Sung-hyo wandered back home, only to be pulled into Suk-ryu's house by her mom, who cooked him dinner. She left quickly, and he ate alone. Hearing a noise, Suk-ryu stepped out of her room. It was awkward. She kept pacing, avoiding eye contact, making excuses to go to the fridge. When she saw the milk, something in her clicked. She couldn't keep running. She turned to him. "To me, you're just a friend. You always have been." With those words, even that friendship shifted. She slipped away into her room. But deep down, she had her reasons. After her stomach cancer surgery and chemotherapy, She thought she was ready to go back to work. At first, she felt strong. But between the stress and constant hospital visits, she developed anxiety. Her smiles faded. Her boyfriend used to check if she was taking her meds and seeing doctors. Every time she nodded, he relaxed, thinking things were fine. But they weren't. One day, she overheard a colleague gossiping about her. He mocked how she worked herself into illness and rushed back the moment she was slightly better. The words stung more than she let on. Suk-ryu felt heavy-hearted. She tried to contact her boyfriend but couldn't reach him, so she went to the party he was attending. From afar, she saw him kissing another woman and rushed over, only to realize he was just helping a coworker with her contact lens. Even so, she couldn't hold back her frustration. They were engaged, yet while she struggled alone with her illness, he was out partying, seemingly indifferent to her pain. That's when he finally spoke honestly. Ever since she got sick, he devoted himself to her, giving up his own life. He assumed she'd bounce back, but she didn't. He blamed her anxiety disorder for ruining both their lives and urged her to stay strong, so she wouldn't drag him down with her. His words made Suk-ryu realize the truth. Their relationship was broken. She ended it. When he proposed again, she refused. Her condition was unpredictable. She lived in fear of a relapse. She couldn't afford to love anyone again. Meanwhile, Sung-hyo waited at the dinner table downstairs. Upstairs, Suk-ryu looked at her surgery scar and told herself, "I've done my best. I need to let him go. I can't let Sung-hyo waste his time on someone like me." Feeling run down and exhausted, Sung-hyo's health took a hit. He forced himself into work, but his coworkers noticed and urged him to rest. Back home, half awake in bed, he thought he saw Suk-ryu. When he opened his eyes, she was really there, gently placing a warm towel on his forehead. She explained she came after getting a message from his colleague. Sung-hyo coldly told her to leave, but she ignored him and went to the kitchen to cook porridge. Alone, he noticed her purse on the floor. Picking it up, he found a hospital document. His face fell when he read, "Gastric cancer surgery, 3 years ago." Overwhelmed, he sat stunned. When Suk-ryu returned, she noticed his expression and quietly packed up to leave. But he followed, demanding why she kept it from him. Right then, Suk-ryu's mother walked in, having come to check on him. She stopped in shock, seeing her daughter crying. Without saying a word, she hugged Suk-ryu tightly. Once Suk-ryu admitted the truth, her mom took her home. At home, she lifted Suk-ryu's shirt and saw the surgery scar for herself. Her father and brother also found out and broke down in tears, upset she hadn't told them. Through tears, Suk-ryu apologized. But her mother pulled away and went to the basement, trying to calm herself by beating a drum. The rhythm wavered, full of guilt and regret. She thought about all the times she had scolded her daughter. Eventually, she broke down and sobbed. Sung-hyo blamed himself just as much as Suk-ryu's mother. 3 years ago, during a business trip to the US, Mom asked him to visit Suk-ryu. He claimed the distance was too far, but in truth, he had gone to her city and visited places she liked, planning to surprise her. Instead, he saw her fiancé helping her walk away. Unaware that she was sick, he misunderstood and felt hurt, deciding to suppress his feelings and cut contact. For 3 years, Suk-ryu kept sending him birthday and holiday messages, but he never replied. Now, he regretted not approaching her that day, asking if she was okay. The next day, Sung-hyo's mom told her friends about Suk-ryu's cancer. Mom's mother heard and informed Mom, who rushed to see Suk-ryu. Before she could scold her, Suk-ryu quickly apologized. Mom hugged her instead, offering comfort. The mood lifted as they joked about buying lottery tickets to change their luck. Meanwhile, Sung-hyo's father discovered Suk-ryu's medical records while treating a patient. When asked, he couldn't share details but assured Sung-hyo that she would be fine. That night, Suk-ryu went for a walk and ran into Sung-hyo. At the park, she sensed he was avoiding her. He admitted he didn't know how to comfort her or what to say. Her family felt the same, careful not to say the wrong thing. That was why she hid her illness. She didn't want to burden her loved ones. Sung-hyo grew upset. He said she thought she was protecting them, but hiding the truth only hurt those who cared. Even in pain, they would have stayed by her side. Suk-ryu didn't respond and ran home, leaving Sung-hyo confused. As he turned, he saw her ex-fiancé. The man realized he too had bottled up emotions and hurt her. He confessed that after surgery, Suk-ryu had battled anxiety alone. At home, Suk-ryu overheard her parents talking. Her mother recalled when Suk-ryu was 3, how she had scolded her during sleepless nights. From then on, Suk-ryu tried hard not to cause trouble, making her parents proud but emotionally distant. Now, both parents wept with regret. Outside the door, Suk-ryu cried too. The next morning, Suk-ryu's mother came to wake her for breakfast, but found the room empty. Her phone was still there. Panicked, she called Sung-hyo. He immediately dropped everything and searched all the places Suk-ryu used to go. Finally, he found her walking alone on the beach. Frustrated, he scolded her. Suk-ryu explained she just needed air and didn't want to be disturbed. When he brought up her anxiety and scolded her again, she turned to leave. In response, he lifted her up and threw her into the sea, telling her to snap out of it. Soaked and furious, Suk-ryu shouted back, not understanding why he was lashing out. But Sung-hyo was upset with himself too. Looking back, he realized her calls and messages from years ago were silent cries for help. He hadn't responded. Suk-ryu burst into tears, punching him in frustration. In her hardest moments, she had hoped he'd be there, but he never was. When she calmed down, Sung-hyo handed her water and her phone, telling her to call the hospital. He'd learned from her mom about her recent checkup and promised to stay by her side, no matter what. She called and learned the pain was just gastritis. Relieved, she allowed him to hug her, and this time, she hugged him back. That night, Sung-hyo brought her to her family's restaurant. When she turned on the lights, a banner welcomed her home. She was embarrassed. It had been a while since she'd returned, but Sung-hyo explained it was his idea. While buying her water earlier, he'd asked her mom to arrange it. Everyone gathered, sharing food and joy. Her mother stood and said, "Being family means facing both happiness and hardship together. That's what makes a home. From now on, that will be our family's motto." Suk-ryu was deeply moved. On the way home, she joked about eating too much, causing everyone to panic. She quickly reassured them it was just overeating, and they all laughed and walked on. Nearby, her ex-fiancé saw her smiling and finally understood what he had to do. He called Suk-ryu one last time. Though he had truly loved her, he realized too late that focusing solely on her recovery had been the wrong approach. What she needed was someone to walk with her through the hard times. Back in Korea, he finally understood Suk-ryu belonged here, and the right man for her wasn't him. He hoped they could both move forward, cherishing the good memories. Before he left, Sung-hyo rushed into Suk-ryu's room and took her to the airport. Her ex-fiancé had asked him to bring her for a final goodbye. Sung-hyo felt they both needed closure. Suk-ryu, embarrassed she hadn't done her makeup, was comforted when her ex said she looked beautiful anyway. He offered a handshake, thinking Sung-hyo wouldn't mind, but Sung-hyo looked away, clearly jealous. The ex-fiancé wished her happiness and health, then walked away. Suk-ryu couldn't hold back her tears. That chapter had ended, but the memories remained dear. As she cried, Sung-hyo gently placed his coat over her head and stood quietly beside her. That evening, Suk-ryu looked at her puffy eyes in the mirror, put on a face mask and opened the window, startling Sung-hyo, who was outside. Just as she was about to scold him, her mom called, and Sung-hyo came in to join dinner. The family gathered, chatting and laughing over a warm home-cooked meal. Sung-hyo felt the closeness and looked at their family photo with admiration. After dinner, he helped her translate a French cooking recipe, but she soon fell asleep. Watching her, Sung-hyo quietly dozed off too. When she woke, she noticed a glimmer on the pendant around his neck and reached out, just as he opened his eyes. The moment turned awkward. Flustered, he stood to leave, but was stopped by Mom at the door. Seeing his red face, Mom assumed he'd finally gotten an answer, but Sung Hyo shook his head. Seeing Suk Ryu cry at the airport, he didn't want to pressure her, even though the milk was about to expire. Mom sighed, overwhelmed by their complicated love story. That night, Sung Hyo played with the milk carton, waiting. Suk Ryu sat frozen, staring at the expiration date, wanting to call, but hesitated. Midnight came. The milk expired. And still no answer. The next morning, Suk Ryu started practicing French cooking. Her parents unexpectedly returned, and she quickly covered the pot, afraid they'd scold her. But knowing how much she loved cooking, they didn't object. Instead, they kindly told her to rest if she was tired and come home to relax. Suk Ryu was touched by their support. In contrast, Sung Hyo's family wasn't so harmonious. His mother, working for the Ministry of Foreign Affairs, had been away from home for years. After 2 decades of putting up with it, his father finally asked for a divorce. To his surprise, she agreed without question. They decided to tell Sung Hyo together. Unaware of the situation, Sung Hyo had even taken his parents to a famous, hard-to-book restaurant. But over dinner, they dropped the bomb. Trying to stay composed, he said he respected their decision. It was their life. But as soon as he stood up, he left, barely holding back tears. He drank alone, thinking about his childhood. His mom, often posted abroad, was accused by his dad of neglecting the family. When her male boss once called, his dad questioned her intentions. In anger, she said she regretted marrying and even having him, feeling tied down by motherhood. Those words had stayed with him. He sighed and downed his drink. Meanwhile, Suk Ryu was replaying Sung Hyo's recipe recording when she got a call from a street vendor. Sung Hyo had passed out drunk nearby. She struggled to drag him to a bench and told him to go home once sober. But he mumbled he didn't want to. He said it was the first time he'd had dinner with both parents since graduating. What Suk Ryu took for granted, family warmth, was something he'd always longed for. That dinner ended with news of their divorce. Tearfully, he admitted how much it hurt. Suk Ryu gently comforted him. She brought him back to his office. While getting a drink, she saw the old milk carton. Embarrassed, he said he'd just forgotten to throw it away. Then, shyly, he fixed her collar, a small gesture that unexpectedly touched her. Soon, it was time for Sung Hyo's mother to leave. She promised to call and try to visit on his birthday. But he'd heard those words all his life. He used to wait for her. Now he no longer hoped. Without a word, he walked away, without looking back. The next morning, Sung Hyo's mother packed her bags and quietly headed to the airport. Meanwhile, Sung Hyo stayed at the office. Suk Ryu suddenly showed up with an old photo, taken during a childhood barbecue, where her father had snapped a picture of Sung Hyo's family. It had always been displayed in her home. She brought it to him and gently reminded him to go see his mom off. As he reached for his phone to call her, his dad rang instead, urging him to come to the police station. His mom's suitcase had been found at the train station, but she was missing. Sung Hyo called her, only to hear the ringtone coming from inside the suitcase. She had accidentally locked her phone inside. He couldn't unlock it until his father tried their wedding anniversary as the passcode, and it worked. His father then called her boss, who was surprised she'd already filed for retirement. Oddly, she sometimes seemed unaware of this, still speaking as if preparing for future assignments. Concerned, Sung Hyo's father reached out to family and friends to search for her. Meanwhile, his mother had wandered into a temple. Mistaking a remote for her phone, she looked around in confusion, unable to remember why she was there. As she tried to leave, she twisted her ankle and tumbled down a hill, losing a shoe. Just then, Sung Hyo and the others learned of her whereabouts and rushed to the temple. A monk confirmed her visit. While searching, they found a prayer she'd written. She admitted to forgetting things more often and wished only to remember her husband and son. Her handwriting brought tears to both Sung Hyo and his father. Following a path down the mountain, they spotted her missing shoe. His father took the steep route down, while Sung Hyo and Suk Ryu circled around the longer trail. His father found her first and gently put his coat over her. Seeing him, she broke down, confessing that she'd lied about being sent abroad because she feared losing him if he knew she was sick. She wanted to preserve her dignity. But her husband, moved to tears, told her he had always loved her and never planned to leave. He had misunderstood her bond with her superior and thought she had feelings for someone else. That quiet distance had built up over time. She had wanted to be close to him, but didn't understand why he kept pulling away. Now, with the truth out, they finally opened their hearts and reconciled. Sung Hyo and Suk Ryu arrived soon after and found his mother. Overcome with emotion, Sung Hyo said he had never had a say in family matters. Whether it was his mom going abroad or his parents' divorce, no one ever asked how he felt. What he wanted most was something as simple as eating a meal together. His mother apologized, saying she still remembered the pain in his eyes after hearing her lies. Guilt had haunted her ever since. That night, she stayed with him, explaining that her harsh words had come from anger. Sung Hyo took her hand, and the two embraced. She regretted not giving him enough love as a mother. Once things settled, his father insisted on carrying her down the mountain himself, saying she was his wife and not someone to hand off to others. With his mother safely home, Sung Hyo could focus on his upcoming business trip. He told Suk Ryu he'd be away for 2 weeks and joked she could come visit if she got bored. She insisted she wouldn't, but after he left, she kept checking her phone for messages. Days passed, and she realized how much she missed him. Without him, everything felt dull and meaningless. She replayed his recipe translation recording, and at the end, heard a message he'd whispered while she was asleep. "Milk expires, but my love for you never will." The words deeply moved her. She borrowed Mom's car and drove to where he was working. When they met, she admitted everything felt empty without him. Hearing this, Sung Hyo stepped forward and kissed her, the girl he had loved quietly for 10 years. Afterward, Suk Ryu asked what their relationship was now. He joked, "The kind where we kiss." Seeing her pout, he quickly added, "I don't kiss just anyone. We're officially a couple now." Her heart melted. Later, one of his co-workers invited her out. When Sung Hyo asked what everyone wanted to eat, the co-worker flirted, "I only want Sung Hyo." Suk Ryu, jealous, chomped down on her food like she was chewing him out. That night, with everyone asleep, they sat outside. He gazed at her with love. After 30 years of knowing her, he'd never gotten tired. Suk Ryu smiled, played with his hair, then leaned on his shoulder and fell asleep. Sung Hyo's relationship with his parents had begun to settle. After making up, his father visited Mom's boss to mark his territory, telling him not to make his wife's heart flutter. Though the boss was good-looking, Dad claimed he loved her most in the world. Mom stayed quiet, and the flustered boss clarified they were just colleagues. That only made Dad angrier. How could a woman like his wife not be pursued? Eventually, the boss blurted out that he liked men. Realizing his mistake, Dad sheepishly ran after Mom. At the hospital, tests showed her memory loss was caused by recent stress, not Alzheimer's. Relieved, Dad collapsed in tears. He couldn't imagine life without her. Mom was touched and embraced him. Meanwhile, Sung Hyo drove Suk Ryu home using Mom's car. Just as they arrived, her mom showed up, trying to drag her to a blind date. Turns out, Mom's mom had recommended someone. Suk Ryu, afraid Sung Hyo would misunderstand, kept refusing. Thankfully, Mom arrived and, seeing them together, teased if they were official. When Suk Ryu said yes, Mom cheered. After all the back and forth, they were finally together. Later, Sung Hyo suggested making their relationship public, but Suk Ryu declined. Their families were too close. If they ever broke up, things could get awkward. Though disappointed, he respected her choice. The next day, Saw called him, but a female coworker noticed, and he quickly hung up. He later told the coworker he had someone he cared about and asked her to keep boundaries, not wanting to upset his girlfriend. That evening, he invited Suk Ryu to the movies. She arrived happily, only to find him still immersed in work. At the theater, he sat properly, not even holding her hand. On the way home, he hesitated, and when Suk Ryu offered her hand, he quickly pulled away to avoid being seen. He told her to go home first, and she left silently, wondering when he'd become so obedient to her wishes. Suk-ryu continued her cooking classes. That day, she made royal barbecue and planned to bring it to Sung-hyo. He was tied up at work and suggested meeting in the evening. Excited, she went to his office, only to walk in on his ex and co-workers mid-conversation. Earlier, Sung-hyo had texted Suk-ryu to explain that everyone being at the office that night was a coincidence. She had rushed over before reading his message. No one else knew about their relationship. But when she saw a photo of him and his ex doing an interview together, she felt uneasy. What upset her more was that he hadn't told her about it in advance. She understood they had to meet for work, but being left out stung. She asked, "Did you tell your ex we're dating?" He said no, because she'd asked him to keep it secret. That made her even more frustrated. "Some things need to be explained," she said. "You can't be so rigid." Then the topic turned to him working with his ex. She brought up how gently he'd told his ex to get home safe earlier. That pushed her over the edge. She asked about their past relationship. Sung-hyo, annoyed, said he didn't owe her every detail of his past. Upset, Suk-ryu walked out. This was their first real argument as a couple. Unaware, their parents had arranged a joint 2-day trip. Sung-hyo's dad eagerly packed all sorts of things: bandages, heat packs, even a wheelchair in case his wife's foot hurt again. He'd become a doting husband, jumping to take photos whenever his wife asked, even lying on the ground to get the best angle. Watching this, Suk-ryu's mom felt a bit envious. Her husband's photos always made her look short and round. Back home, Suk-ryu waited for Sung-hyo's call. Her phone was silent. To be sure it still worked, she had Mom call her. The phone rang. So he really wasn't calling. She told Mom about the fight, admitting she'd been jealous and probably asked things she shouldn't have. Still, she couldn't help how she felt. She lost interest in everything, even cooking. Restless, she went out for a walk and stumbled across Sung-hyo feeding a stray cat. The cat had its own tiny house, something he had built back in high school. She had once rescued the injured cat despite her allergy, and he'd built it to make her happy. Over time, he kept renovating it, making it prettier. "I built it for you," he confessed. "I saw how much you cared about the cat, and I just wanted to see you smile." That moment stirred something in her. As her heart softened, his stomach suddenly growled, breaking the tension. Suk-ryu smiled and brought Sung-hyo home for dinner. At the table, she apologized for letting jealousy cloud her judgment. Sung-hyo also said sorry, promising not to keep things from her and to avoid any further involvement with his ex. He admitted that seeing her jealous oddly made him happy, and that after their argument, he couldn't focus, his emotions were all tied to her. After dinner, Suk-ryu led him to her comic room. Alone with her, Sung-hyo grew tense. Just being near her made him nervous. While watching a movie, he wanted to hold her hand but hesitated. He liked her too much, and that made him even more flustered. The room's atmosphere grew warmer, and he felt like fleeing before his thoughts turned too dark. Sensing this, Suk-ryu teasingly said she'd always loved snacks, and now, she liked dark thoughts too. So, if those thoughts turned into actions, she'd allow them. Sung-hyo then kissed her as they lay on the bed, casually turning off the lamp. Under the starry sky, they shared a passionate kiss. The next morning, they woke up side by side, gazing at each other with affection, ready to start a beautiful new day. After dating Sung-hyo, Suk-ryu felt a strange, fluttery excitement, like love had quietly bloomed from their years of friendship. Sung-hyo told her he had loved her in different ways all along. Before she could respond, they heard their parents outside. The couple quickly got dressed and pretended to be reading comics. Suk-ryu's mom teased Sung-hyo for buttoning his shirt wrong, but luckily didn't suspect anything. During breakfast, their parents joked about setting them up. To dodge the pressure, they both pretended the other was totally incompatible. Sensing his parents might act on it, Sung-hyo suggested going public with their relationship. But Suk-ryu refused. She had just broken off an engagement and didn't want her parents thinking she was fickle. Besides, once official, Sung Hyo wouldn't be able to visit her room freely. He agreed to keep things private. They began secretly dating, sharing quiet moments, going on private outings, and enjoying dates away from home. One night at Sung Hyo's office, while cooking together, he lifted her onto the table and leaned in. Just then, a coworker walked in. They scrambled into another room, where Suk Ryu sat on his lap, and they shared a stolen kiss in the dark, both giddy with the thrill of a hidden romance. The next day, Suk Ryu took her chef's exam. When it ended, Sung Hyo picked her up with a bouquet, complimenting her glow. On the way home, they ran into her younger brother and a colleague. When asked about the flowers, Sung Hyo claimed they were from a client, and Suk Ryu just smiled proudly. Her brother laughed, thinking she was delightfully bossy. Suk Ryu's younger brother insisted on visiting Sung Hyo's office. Seeing him put Sung Hyo in an awkward spot, Suk Ryu snapped, telling him to leave, but he wouldn't budge. He'd been selling protein powder lately, and one of Suk Ryu's coworkers was his customer. She mentioned the product, despite being popular online, lacked food safety approval and might contain mold. Alarmed, he opened a jar to check, and sure enough, it smelled off. Suk Ryu dragged him home and told their parents. He had used their savings to buy a large stock of this faulty protein powder and had already sold 10 jars. If customers complained, he could be sued. He was frustrated, he hadn't known, and now had to contact buyers to refund and apologize. Their mother was heartbroken. At over 30, her son still hadn't found direction. Though she always tried to support his ventures, it seemed to go nowhere. He admitted he only wanted to succeed and provide a better life for the family. Holding back emotion, he began messaging customers to fix the mistake. Later, Suk Ryu encouraged him. You don't need to chase something huge. Just doing what you enjoy is enough. Before this, he was a dedicated fitness trainer, eating chicken and protein daily for a year. She admired his discipline, telling him he'd make it eventually. Their mom, eavesdropping at the door, smiled proudly. The next day, Sung Hyo saw Suk Ryu celebrating. She'd passed her Korean cooking exam on the first try. He rushed to meet her and hugged her tightly. They were childhood friends, so people assumed it was just happy news. Suk Ryu planned to find a cooking-related job. Sung Hyo reminded her to keep her distance from male coworkers. She joked about how attractive good cooks were. Not to be outdone, he flexed, I'm just as impressive. She confidently sent out applications, but didn't get into her dream restaurant. A classmate did, and invited others to celebrate. Disheartened, Suk Ryu joked that no one wanted to hire someone her age. Her friends comforted her, and thankfully, Sung Hyo was there to lift her spirits. One evening during a date at the office, Sung Hyo excitedly told Suk Ryu that his project had been selected as the best architectural design of the year and he'd been invited to the upcoming annual awards ceremony. He asked her to join him, but Suk Ryu declined, saying their relationship wasn't public and she didn't feel comfortable attending such events yet. Though disappointed, Sung Hyo respected her decision and assured her it wouldn't affect how he felt. Later, he visited a restaurant he had designed and was given some food as thanks. He brought it to Suk Ryu's place, but she wasn't in her room. Seeing clothes scattered on the bed, he smiled at her messiness and started tidying up. That's when he spotted documents and notes about studying abroad. His heart sank. Was she planning to leave again? He felt upset. After all they'd been through, they had finally found happiness together, and now she was ready to walk away. In truth, Suk Ryu was also hurting. After countless job rejections, she started considering studying abroad to improve her skills. She didn't want to burden Sung Hyo or feel like a failure next to him, especially at the awards event. She admitted her fears and suggested they take a one-week break, then quietly left. In the following days, Sung Hyo missed her deeply, often looking at her pictures. Suk Ryu stayed busy studying recipes, but couldn't help checking her phone for his messages. One day, her younger brother came by to thank her. Her advice had helped him turn things around, and he promised to work hard to repay their mom. He apologized for being arrogant, always trying to compete with her, and reminded her that they were family. There was no need for rivalry. His words made Suk Ryu realize she'd been pushing Sung Hyo away out of insecurity. She picked up the phone and called him. At that moment, Sung Hyo was inspecting a site. Seeing her name on the screen, he smiled in relief. But just as he was about to answer, a loud crash echoed nearby, and he was rushed into the emergency room. Seeing Sung Hyo safe, Suk Ryu let out a breath of relief, tears falling. "I love you," she said, finally brave enough to confess after nearly losing him. She called herself foolish for pushing him away. She didn't want to be apart anymore. Sung Hyo hugged her tightly, expressing his deep love. He missed her so much, he'd obediently stayed away just to respect her wishes. Even while injured, his thoughts were on her. In that life-or-death moment, he was frustrated that "I love you" was all he could say. It didn't feel like enough. As his life flashed before him, every memory was tied to Suk Ryu. Though his injury wasn't serious, Suk Ryu couldn't stop worrying. She even suggested he change jobs, but since it was his passion, she simply told him to be careful. That night, while checking his messages, Sung Hyo saw a cooking contest poster at the restaurant he visited. Thinking Suk Ryu was perfect for it, he secretly submitted one of her recipes. She won third prize. Though used to winning first, this surprise filled her with joy and renewed her confidence when she'd felt lost about the future. The next day, Sung Hyo received his architecture award. Though praised and busier than ever, he wasn't excited. He wanted to cut back work and focus on marriage. His male colleague was shocked. How could he propose to someone who felt like family? Sung Hyo affirmed he would. The male coworker suggested proposing during a sports event to catch her off guard, but a female colleague quickly objected. Women want a private, heartfelt proposal, with a proper ring and a letter. Sung Hyo took her words seriously, and quietly began planning the perfect proposal for Suk Ryu. They continued dating and enjoyed a good meal together. Suk Ryu mentioned that if her stomach felt better, she'd love to film restaurant reviews. That sparked an idea for Sung Hyo, since she used to post Korean cooking videos in the US. Why not start again? Suk Ryu hesitated, saying her skills might impress foreigners, but in Korea, everyone's a pro with high-quality videos. Sung Hyo offered to help shoot the video. Once he set up the camera, Suk Ryu froze, forgetting what to do. Sung Hyo kissed her forehead and reassured her, saying her food was delicious. Encouraged, she began filming smoothly. The next day, Sung Hyo was ready to propose. But everything went wrong. First, the water cut off mid-shower, forcing him to rinse with bottled water. Then, he burned a hole in his shirt while ironing. At least the bouquet in the car trunk was still intact. He picked up Suk Ryu and hinted he'd take her somewhere special. But shortly after driving off, they were rear-ended. The car, and the flowers, were towed away. Still, he brought her to the restaurant he'd reserved. During dinner, just as he was about to propose, the head chef got a call. His wife had gone into labor. Sung Hyo pleaded with him to stay, but Suk Ryu urged the chef to leave, not knowing anything. The chef left, reminding Sung Hyo that the cake was in the kitchen. Left alone, Sung Hyo went to the kitchen himself to retrieve the cake, with the proposal written on it. As Sung Hyo carefully brought out the cake, he suddenly slipped and crashed to the floor. Staring at the ruined cake, he looked utterly dejected. That evening, while filming a cooking video with Suk Ryu, she received a comment from a viewer thanking her. Her recipe had helped his mother, who was undergoing chemo, enjoy food again. Deeply moved, Suk Ryu teared up. She recalled how painful it had been for her to eat during chemo and realized that if her cooking could bring comfort to others, then that was the true meaning of it for her. Seeing the hope in her eyes, Sung Hyo nearly cried. He blamed himself for not being there when she was sick and vowed to stay by her side from now on. Caught up in emotion, he blurted something out, then awkwardly pulled out a bracelet and proposed. To his shock, Suk Ryu quietly rejected him, saying she couldn't get married. Stunned and speechless, Sung Hyo became unusually sensitive afterward. When a business partner rejected a proposal at work, he snapped. He confided in a visiting reporter, John Ho, about everything that happened. Reflecting on the day of the failed proposal, Sung Hyo realized everything had gone wrong from the start. He hadn't written a heartfelt letter, and maybe offering a bracelet instead of a ring was a mistake. John Ho, however, joked it might have just been bad timing. Maybe Suk Ryu was simply hungry. After all, girls tend to get emotional when they haven't eaten. That struck a chord. Sung Hyo remembered how cranky Suk Ryu could get when hungry. Regretful, he headed to a snack bar to drink alone. When Suk Ryu got the call, she rushed to pick him up. Helping him sit on the curb, she saw the sadness on his face. "Why did you turn me down?" he asked quietly. "Without you, life feels empty." And then, he passed out in her arms. Regretful, he headed to a snack bar to drink alone. When Suk Ryu got the call, she rushed to pick him up. Helping him sit on the curb, she saw the sadness on his face. "Why did you turn me down?" he asked quietly. "Without you, life feels empty." And then, he passed out in her arms. When Sung Hyo woke up, he was clear-headed. He asked Suk Ryu why she turned down his proposal. He knew she loved him. Why didn't she want to get married? He hoped they could move forward, wanted to be her rock and bring her happiness. But Suk Ryu had her reasons. She didn't know when her cancer might return. Just staying alive already felt like a stretch. In that uncertainty, marriage seemed like too much to promise. To Sung Hyo, it was simple. Death comes for everyone. Why give up the chance at happiness just because the end is known? Even if they had only one day, he wanted it with her. He wanted to hold on tight. Moved by his words, Suk Ryu accepted. To her, marrying him meant cherishing every second they had left. They hugged, hearts full. Then they saw both sets of parents standing on the sidewalk, frozen in shock.
To understand why.
Rewind to that morning. The moms had planned a luxury European cruise. But when they heard how expensive first-class tickets were, Suk Ryu's mom looked uneasy. Sung Hyo's mom offered to cover her ticket. This hurt her pride. She thought her friend was showing off or pitying her. Sung Hyo's mom tried to explain. It wasn't like that. They were close friends, she just wanted to help. But it escalated into a fierce argument. They traded harsh words and swore to never speak again. The dads stepped in, dragging their wives home. But the moms kept ranting, now directing their anger at their husbands. To escape, the two dads secretly met at a bar, hoping for some peace. Then came chaos. The moms got wind of their husbands cheating and stormed into the bar, ready for battle. At that very moment, they all caught sight of Sung Hyo and Suk Ryu embracing in the street. When their parents caught them, Suk Ryu was still speechless, but Sung Hyo quickly confessed. They were dating. Both families were stunned. Sung Hyo's mom, furious, scolded him in French and dragged him home. Suk Ryu's mom silently pulled her daughter away. Back home, Suk Ryu told her mother they had been dating for a while and planned to marry. Though she admitted Sung Hyo was a good match, his mother's likely reaction worried her. She feared Suk Ryu's past illness and failed marriage might be used against her. Sung Hyo's mom was also concerned about Suk Ryu's health. She asked her husband, a doctor, about her chances, but quickly cut him off, unwilling to hear the truth. That night, Sung Hyo climbed into Suk Ryu's room despite his injury, held her tight, and said they shouldn't hide anymore. He slipped a bracelet on her wrist, knelt down, and proposed. She happily said yes. Despite their parents' objections, they continued their happy routine, working, laughing, and teasing, making co-workers envious. The next day, Suk Ryu's dad quietly posted a notice at his restaurant. It would close in a few days. A new, trendier place had taken all his customers, forcing him to shut down. Still upset, Suk Ryu's mom ran into Sung Hyo's mom again and walked away after tossing a few sarcastic remarks. Though angry, Sung Hyo's mom was concerned when she learned about the restaurant's closure. That night, Suk Ryu's family gathered as her dad announced his retirement. She feared he was hiding something, but he reassured her he just wanted to rest. Later, Suk Ryu told Mom her secret had been discovered. Mom, more focused on getting ready for her date with Dan-ho, offered vague comfort. Just as she left, Sung Hyo called. He asked her to help renovate the home of an elderly woman who collected recyclables. He and Mum used to help her push her cart, and now they wanted to give her something more lasting. With plans in place, the four of them worked together to fix up the house, transforming it into a cozy, livable space. Seeing the newly renovated home, the elderly woman was overwhelmed. Once surrounded by piles of recyclables, she'd felt suffocated and hopeless, but now life seemed truly wonderful. Meanwhile, the group of friends hatched a plan to help the two moms make peace. They invited Suk-ryu's and Sung-hyo's mothers to a cafe, locked the door, and hoped the two would finally talk things out. As they chatted, the topic naturally turned to their kids. Sung-hyo's mom admitted she never expected them to become a couple and suggested they respect their children's choices and observe for now. But Suk-ryu's mom took it as her hoping for a breakup. Sung-hyo's mom clarified she just didn't want to jump to conclusions, especially since Suk-ryu had recently been through a lot. That struck a nerve. What Suk-ryu's mom feared most was her friend judging her daughter after learning about her illness. She lashed out, warning her to drop the judgmental attitude or Sung-hyo might stay single forever. Things escalated. Soon they were shouting, then wrestling, spilling juice everywhere. The reconciliation attempt ended in chaos. The next day, Suk-ryu's mom overheard a neighbor mocking her husband's tteokbokki and gossiping about their unemployed daughter. Furious, she confronted them but was shoved to the ground, just as Sung-hyo's mom passed by. Seeing her friend being bullied, she jumped in to help. Together, the two women fought back, taking on the trio of gossipy neighbors until they were all hauled off to the police station. The two dads soon arrived, smelling of alcohol they'd secretly met for drinks. Trapped between feuding wives, they exchanged a knowing glance and pulled out another bottle, finally relaxing. The young couple also rushed in, worried for their moms. Though outnumbered, the two women had clearly come out on top in spirit. Eventually, peace was made, and the women were released. Turns out, some friendships are sealed with fists. Later, as they reminisced, Sung-hyo's mom recalled how she'd once been bullied, until Suk-ryu's mom stepped in to protect her. Laughing and smiling, they reconnected. They had a heart-to-heart. Suk-ryu's mom admitted she'd always felt insecure. Her friend was smart, successful, spoke multiple languages, while she'd relied on babysitting Sung-hyo to earn money. That shame had lingered for years. But Sung-hyo's mom reassured her. Raising a child is work. And it matters. She remembered her own first day of school, friendless, until Suk-ryu's mom reached out. Since then, they'd been like sisters. Even if our kids get married, she said, I'll never call you mother-in-law. You'll always be my friend first. Suk-ryu's mom was surprised. She'd assumed her friend resented her daughter's illness. How could I not care? Sung-hyo's mom said. She's like my own. I've watched her grow up. My concern is love, not judgment. Outside the door, Suk-ryu had been listening, tears falling silently. At last, her mother called her and Sung-hyo in. This time, the two moms officially entrusted their children to each other. The next day marked the final service at Suk-ryu's father's restaurant. A young woman visited, saying she'd lived nearby a decade ago. After failing an exam back then, she had come in for spicy tteokbokki. Suk-ryu's dad encouraged her to keep going and gave her extra food. She never forgot his kindness. After she left, family and friends gathered. The atmosphere was warm and full of laughter. A local reporter came to interview Suk-ryu's father. Running the restaurant for half his life, he was emotional. Though he had regrets, mainly neglecting family due to work, he promised to spend more time with them now. That evening, the family walked home together. After seeing his parents off, Suk-ryu and Sung-hyo went on a date. She'd cooked his favorite dish. He brushed her hair aside in thanks, and Suk-ryu shyly said she'd cook for him forever, unless he got tired of her. It was simple, but felt like a proposal. Overjoyed, Sung-hyo hugged and kissed her. Later, both families had dinner. Suk-ryu and Sung-hyo slipped away to talk. Work had kept them apart, and Sung-hyo pouted, hugging her. Just one more week, he promised. Then I'm all yours. Since going public, they could hold hands and go for walks without hiding. During breaks, Suk-ryu answered fan messages, while Sung-hyo, from the apartment across the street, called to her through the window. They often met for evening strolls. One day, Suk-ryu ran into his arms. They wandered their old neighborhood, each corner filled with memories, playing as kids, karaoke nights, even silly arguments. Every spot held traces of their love. Passing her dad's old restaurant, they saw it had been renovated. Curious, Suk-ryu asked what it would become. Sung-hyo led her inside. The kitchen was beautiful, warm, and inviting. Then he revealed the surprise. It was her restaurant now. Not long ago, Suk-ryu's father secretly asked Sung-hyo to redesign the family restaurant as a surprise gift for his daughter. Before passing it on, he wanted it to be perfect. That's why Sung-hyo had been so busy. He refined the design multiple times before starting construction. The project symbolized the love of two men who cherished Suk-ryu most, her father and Sung-hyo. Touched, she broke into tears. Hugging her, Sung-hyo promised to personally design every space that would one day belong to her. Now nearly ready to open, the restaurant was named Rainbow Kitchen. Tables, cookware, and dishes were in place, and the countdown had begun. Her parents visited often. Her father, experienced in the field, reminded her to enjoy the journey and not overwork. Wanting his continued support, Suk-ryu asked him to be the restaurant's advisor. She also created software to handle online and other orders. Reflecting on the moment, Suk-ryu felt grateful. Past challenges had led her here. With the restaurant in good shape, attention turned to the wedding. Sung-hyo's mother said she didn't need fancy makeup or to be a typical mother-in-law. She only wanted the couple to be happy. However, the two mothers clashed over the wedding date. Sung-hyo's mom wanted it within the year, while Suk-ryu's mom preferred next spring. Still, despite disagreements, they remained best friends. They even decided to teach each other. Sung-hyo's mom would learn cooking, and Suk-ryu's mom would study English. She dreamed of traveling and being able to communicate abroad. In the kitchen, Sung-hyo's mom was clueless. She couldn't use a rice cooker and chopped vegetables slowly. During English lessons, they switched roles. Like a child learning to speak, Suk-ryu's mom was constantly corrected on pronunciation by her enthusiastic friend. Time flew by, and soon it was the day Suk-ryu tried on her wedding dress. When Sung-hyo saw his bride, his mind went blank. He couldn't find words to describe her beauty. Suk-ryu said she wanted to postpone the wedding for a year to focus on her career and enjoy their time together. As always, Sung-hyo supported her, though deep down, he eagerly looked forward to their big day. Meanwhile, Suk-ryu had a surprise. She prepared a wedding gown for Sung-hyo's mom and arranged a photo shoot for both parents. When his dad saw his wife in the dress, he froze, overwhelmed by her beauty. Sung-hyo's mom held a lily-of-the-valley bouquet, flowers symbolizing happiness, while posing with her husband. After all they'd been through, their love endured. Touched, Sung-hyo thanked Suk-ryu for creating such a meaningful family memory. After being a devoted son for over 30 years, he was ready to take on a new role, being Suk-ryu's man. She wrapped her arms around his neck and promised to love him with all her heart. They made a vow, 30 years from now, they'd take a happy wedding photo too. 10 months passed. Their mothers still bickered, but now with a fondness. Suk-ryu's mom often praised her son-in-law and proudly showed off the scarf he'd gifted. Sung-hyo's mom couldn't stop talking about her daughter-in-law's success, turning a 6-month-old eatery into a beloved, healing restaurant, and flaunted the lipstick Suk-ryu had given her. Suk-ryu found deep joy in cooking. After each meal, she'd share a recipe, hoping to serve food that was not just tasty, but nourishing. She also uploaded tutorials online, happily revealing her methods. One fan once commented that they loved her recipes, but couldn't cook due to illness. Recently, that same fan returned, healthy and deeply moved by Suk-ryu's food and warmth. She even received a handwritten recipe as a gift. Meanwhile, Sung-hyo was busy designing their dream home, eager to start a life together. When a coworker joked, "Welcome to married life." Hell, Sung-hyo smiled and said, Living with Suk-ryu is paradise. One day, they had a meeting with a contractor. Suk-ryu arrived nearly an hour late due to work. Unlike usual, Sung-hyo was visibly upset. Surprised, Suk-ryu asked why. He said she was the one who'd changed. If she valued their life together, why make him wait on something so important? Frustrated too, Suk-ryu agreed they needed a plan to avoid fights. So, they made 3 rules. 1. Hold hands while arguing. 2. End every sentence with "I love you." 3. Say what they truly feel. They tried it, and it worked.
Just like that, the tension vanished.
Laughing, hand in hand, they went to their meeting, ready to build their future together. And with that, their story comes to a close. Thank you so much for watching. Don't forget to like and subscribe for more heartwarming stories.
See you next time.